Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, today in this session we would be talking on instructional design. Now you might be wondering what is instructional design? So to give answer to your question, we would like to tell you all that we are going to have a session on the topic instructional design, and for this discussion we have once again with us in our studios Professor Devesh Kishore. Professor Devesh Kishore is a Professor Emeritus and Head of Journalism and Mass Communication Research, Makhanlal Chaturvedi, National University of Journalism and Communication. So with a warm welcome, we would like to introduce to you once again Professor Devesh Kishore. Hello sir, welcome to DD Set Lecture.
Thank you very much. Well friends, today we will be having basic discussion on instructional design. Let us understand what do we mean by instructional design, how it is helpful to, especially to the teachers and instructors, professors in the universities, how can we improve our whole instructional system. It is very interesting to note that this year budget which has been displayed, there is a special assignments have been given on developing instructional designs at the higher education level. So therefore, in that context, it becomes very important to understand the whole process of instructional design, methodology, what are the important elements involved in it. We will be having basic discussions on this. Let's first understand what do we mean by instructional design. As the name indicates, instructional design means how should you design your instructions so that these instructions can be easily understood by the learner. Whenever we always talk of teaching learning process, we don't say students, we say learner. Why we say learner? Because we are, as a teacher, at the postgraduate level or at the graduate level, we are the facilitators. We facilitate the system of informing them, helping them so that they can understand the basic concepts and related information to that subject as well as skill involved in that. So I think now let us call the teachers as facilitator, and when facilitators are there, the whole concept changes. Concept changes means that the person concerned who is going to give the instructions, that is the teaching process is going to start, that person should understand that I am facilitating the learners, the students, so that they can understand the concept involved in that. I will show you the first slide which is related with the instructional design. In this instructional design, I have given you the basic concepts where I am trying to indicate that the learning process has to be taken into account so that the whole teaching learning process becomes efficient, effective and intelligible. I have said three things: effective, efficient and intelligible. Effective means the instructor should try to see that whatever he is going to present in that process, that becomes quite understandable by the student. So therefore effective means that when he is changing his attitude, his way of thinking, his skills, his knowledge, whatever we are going to change, all the three components of the behavior, that is the knowledge, attitude and skill. Now they have to be changed through an effective methodology. That methodology which is intelligible. Intelligible means which is understood by the student. So therefore, to design an instructional process, it is a challenge to the facilitator, to the instructional, how to design the system so that it becomes effective, efficient, and also it becomes intelligible. I think I am reminded of, in this context, of a Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom has given a beautiful description that how and what we are going to change through instructional design process. He says that there are basically three things which we are going to change in the learner. There are basically three domains. First domain, he says, is cognitive domain. Cognitive means the knowledge, the understanding process. So when you want to change the cognitive ground to bring the change in that area, then you will have to say that the change in cognitive area will have to be taken care of. Now the important thing which has to be taken care of, that of interventions. What are the interventions which have to be taken care of? Interventions means that when we are facilitating the process of learning and teaching, then we should bring some interventions which will assist the facilitator, which will assist the instructor in making the process effective. Interventions can be of different types. For example, there can be intervention by asking questions. There can be intervention by giving them some example. There can be intervention by which you can give them some exercise, short exercises. So there can be several types of interventions which facilitator will have to decide in the whole instructional design process, what type of intervention should I introduce you. I am reminded of a very interesting study which says when the learner is in the classroom, then at that time when he is listening to your talk, then what happens? First 5 minutes, 10 minutes are very crucial for him. If he finds the lecture very interesting, if he finds there is some going to be useful to him, he will be very attentive to hear you. But after 15 minutes, he finds that the lecture is going on and he is not able to concentrate with that intensity by which he was concentrating earlier. Therefore, the intervention is required at that moment of time, maybe after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, so that you can bring him back to the whole process of teaching learning. That is very important. Now there are two types of instructional design process. One is called pedagogically, that is called process of teaching, and second is called andragogically. Now these are the two theories of learning which takes place in teaching learning process. One, that is pedagogically, is related with the classroom teaching, where the learners have come to listen to the teacher and teacher is trying to give him the information. And second is andragogically, which is basically meant for adult learning process. The outcome of the instruction in both the cases is observable and scientifically measured, and can also be, we can give them in such a manner so that they don't feel that they are being dictated certain information or technology. We must remember, this has to be remembered by the facilitator, that whatever is being given to him is only to facilitate his job situation, to facilitate what he is going to do it later on, or is to facilitate his deeper understanding of the subject, or to learn the skills. Therefore, the information which we give him in such a process, such an instructional process, so that he should not think I am being forced and the information is being given to me by certain amount of force. As all of us know, the force does not work. in teaching learning process logic works. If the student is able to understand, if the learner is able to understand, and logically he is able to understand the whole process, then it will remain with him. By just cramming the information, he may cram it and perhaps present it, but later on he will forget it because he has not understood the whole thing, basic concept. Therefore, in instructional design, the most important thing is intelligibility. Whatever you are being presented, it should be presented in a logical manner. There are certain models which have been developed. One model which I am giving you here is called ADDIE model with 5 phases. First phase is analysis, second phase is design. So when I talk of instructional design, I am basically emphasizing on the design itself. I am not emphasizing on the analysis. Why? Because when the students or the learners are coming to us, they have been selected for that program on the basis of certain requirements. So analysis has already been done. For example, interest test has been conducted, and through that interest test you get certain level of students which you think will be able to benefit from the program. So therefore that analysis has been done. Now the challenge for the instructor is how to design his whole process so that it reaches to them. That means development of the design, that has to be taken care of. So first he should know what are the designs available, which design he can use and which design he can develop for that particular course or session, whatever he is going to handle. And next thing is implementation. It's not that only just you develop a beautiful lesson plan, not only that you develop you write down beautiful interventions, but how to implement them. Implementing is another important task for the instructor to face it, because sometime what happens, we develop very beautiful notes, we develop a beautiful lecture plan, also develop interventions, but we are not able to implement them. And last thing in this process is the evaluation. We should know how to evaluate. Evaluation does not mean that you give him the examination at that moment of time. No, evaluation can be done during the lectures itself. You can see what is happening to your learner. Is he nodding his head? Is he taking down the notes? You can read his face, whether he is able to understand or not. Or when you ask him the questions and he gives you the answer, that also can be a sort of evaluation. So evaluation should not be confused with the examination. Evaluation is whatever you are giving. In other words, sometimes people say it's a feedback. Yes, it can be a feedback where you are evaluating whatever you are giving him, is that reaching to him. If it is not reaching, then what is the point of giving him more and more information, knowledge or skill? There is no point. So therefore, I think an instructor will have to go through with these all 5 important phases, and that is what I call it ADDIE model. A for analysis, D for designing, another D for development, I for implementation, E for evaluation. It is very easy to remember if you call it ADDIE model. And this ADDIE model, as I told you, explained to you, Bloom's taxonomy, that it is rooted into the cognitive domain, that is knowledge, behavioral and psychomotor domain, that is his skill and his attitude. So these are the 3 things which have to be taken care of through this model. That is what I said, implementation is very important. So teacher must know, our instructor must know what knowledge he want to give. That, in other words, learning outcomes. The present finance minister has emphasized that there will be learning outcomes which will be emphasized in the whole instructional educational process. Learning outcomes means that what you want them to learn, and after they have attended your course or your presentation, what will be the last and important learning points. So outcomes means after you have made the presentation, what has come out? Have they been able to understand? So therefore, the learning outcomes have to be taken into account in terms of cognitive behavior, in terms of the attitude, in terms of the skills, they have to be taken into account. I give you this model more in a visual form so that you can easy to remember. On the top I have written analyze. As instructor, you must analyze your students, your learners. What is their capacity? What is their level of understanding? How much background knowledge they have got? What is their interest? What they would like to learn? How it will be beneficial to them? That is the analysis. The teacher must do, or the instructor must do that analysis. As I was mentioning, certain times analysis is done in advance before the students are admitted to the course, and then it is worked out so that instructor gets the students of same level so that they can understand well. Then the next is, which has been shown in this square, is the design. You have to design on the basis of all those characteristics which you have analyzed, and then you design your system and then develop it, and after development, implementation. Evaluation I have kept in separate in the center. Why? Because evaluation is required at all the stages. A instructor must be a good evaluator. Evaluator does not mean the examination. Evaluator means going through the present system, going through what is happening in the class or in the instructor's room. He should take care of all that. So this is one model, another same model based on this. This is another model, same model shown in another picture, in another methodology. For example, here you will find is a circular model. That earlier was the square model. It is up to the instructor to accept whichever model he or she likes. But point remains the same. That is, first point is analyze. He will have to analyze, he has to get the analysis done of the students. I think this is very important. If the analysis has not been done, then it becomes very difficult for the instructors to take the things intelligibly to the students, because students must be homogeneous, at least on the certain important parameters. They may not have the same intelligence level, I agree. They may not be same level of concentration in the studies, maybe. But the point is, they must have the almost similar background. They must have almost similar need. So there are certain common parameters. Now that has to be taken into account. The instructors develop the design on keeping in mind the common parameters. He will not be able to design a course, or if we want to design a lesson, let us say, then if he keeps only intelligent students in mind, then what happens to other students? Or if he develops or designs only keeping the dull students, then what happens to intelligent students? So therefore, he has to keep in mind all the parameters which are there with the learners in their personality characteristics. A successful instructor is who can take care of all the variety of students who have come to the class or to the place to learn certain things. So he should be able to take care of intelligent students, dull students, mediocre students, all types of students. He should make a presentation in such a way that there should be something available for intelligent students to do, there should be something available in a repetition form for dull students, and that care is to be taken. So therefore, this model says the same thing, that you analyze, design, develop, implement and evaluate. I think most of the time we find evaluation process is not taken care of, except we ask one or two questions in the classrooms or in the instructor's place. That should not be. We must go on collecting the feedback, we must go on collecting the progress which is being made by the student. I remember in some of the classes where I handle, I find some students, they are very attentive, looks like very attentive to you, seeing towards you, their pen is moving on the copy and you feel, oh, he is taking down all what you are saying to talk. But if you go to nearer to him and see what he is doing on his notebook, he is making a flower or he is drawing a face of somebody. So therefore his attention is gone. Now instructor must take care of those students. How many students are giving you the negative feedback? But that is, I will say in other words, false feedback. This false feedback has to be taken care of. In number of sessions it has been noticed, and we as a teacher or as an instructor forget about it. So therefore let us take that into account. Now let us come to the principles of instruction. What are the basic principles of instructions? And here I am showing you the diagram which has been drawn by Mr. Merrill, very famous diagram, his presentation. He says all the learners are involved in cognitive, psychomotor and affective domain. I have already explained you these domains. When they are involved in this, the facilitator task is that how to take all these changes in his behavior so that they are able to learn at a faster speed. So first thing is activate them. So first problem of an instructor is how to activate students, how to establish rapport with them, how to give them an impression that what you are going to talk is really relevant to them, is useful to them later on, is useful for performing certain tasks. I am sure if instructor tells in his presentation, opening presentation, that this is the thing which I am going to discuss today and this will help you in such ways, I think the attention span of the learners increases. When I say attention span, means that duration, that is earlier 5 or 10 or 15 minutes duration span can be increased if you put the information in such a way that they feel this is going to be really useful for them in future, is really going to make a difference in their behavior. So the activation part, the activation principle is very important for the facilitator. Second is he should be able to demonstrate whatever you are trying to give it to the learner through your instructional process. If you are able to demonstrate it, if you are able to show him, if you are able to explain to him through a case study or through a whatever type of assignment sheets you want to take up, whatever, you must be able to demonstrate him. You must be able to show him that this has happened because of these types of things. And then third important principle is the application. Application means that the knowledge which you are going to give it to him, you must explain him how he will apply that, how he will going to use that. Now all these principles are interrelated. They are not separate boxes. So once you have activated them, demonstrated them, and then you have told them how to apply it, and then you must tell them this application, how can it be integrated to his present work or present knowledge or present skill. Until unless you integrate it, they are likely to forget after some time. Once you integrate with their present existing activities, they are likely to remember it for a longer period of time. So therefore, the four important principles which have to be kept in mind. First principle is of activation, that is directly related with the students. You must activate them so that they accept whatever you are going to present in terms of cognitive, in terms of psychomotor, or in terms of effective, whatever you are going to present it. Then you must demonstrate them. You must show them. You must say how to do it. Suppose it is not possible to demonstrate, but tell them how to, explain them how to do it. Take some time to explain them. Don't jump. And then you must explain them how to apply this information or this knowledge which I have imparted to you in your day-to-day activity. And next is integration. I find most of the instructors are not able to integrate. They may explain the application part of it, but they are not able to integrate with their existing activities of the learner, and therefore they become a separate island in the knowledge. They should be able to affiliate, to see that whatever they are giving, it is integrates with their existing knowledge, existing understanding concepts or existing skills. That is what is very important. I think if these principles are taken care of, then it will be very easy to communicate or transfer or facilitate the information to them. Now the important aspect is, what are the effective instructional materials, which we call it programmed instructional materials. Why we call it programmed instructional materials? Because these have to be programmed by the instructors, these materials, and then he will be able to communicate properly. There are a number of instructional materials which I have listed in this transparency, in this PPT, and I will explain it on different occasions when I am making the presentation. For example, feed forward. Everybody has heard of feedback. What is feed forward? I think we should understand. So basic concepts, that how feed forward is taken, how learning objectives are taken care of, how we can know the learning conditions, then how can we conduct feedback studies and final assessments. Now these are the 5 important things which have to be considered while you are designing your lesson plan or you are developing the instructional material. I think this has to be taken care of while you are working as an instructor and designing your classes, your instructional materials. We will have more discussion on this later on related to each important point, that is the feed forward, objectives, learning conditions, and the final assessment. Thank you very much. Friends, I was speaking on instructional design, discussing the several points related to it. The most important point is how to develop effective instructional material. That is a challenge to the instructor. And what are the things in instructional material which have to be developed? First, we should know that. First thing I have kept here, feed forward research. The question is, what is feed forward research or feed forward studies? Feed forward studies means that before you give your presentation or before you make your lesson plan presentation, you must find out or you must indicate to them that what is likely to come, how it is going to be advantageous, and what are the things which you would like to know more about it. I find most of the Western universities, especially I was recently in Berlin, there the style of a teacher is that they conduct feed forward studies, just spending 2 or 3 minutes in the class. Try to find out what is that in that students will be interested. And then you come out with a learning objective. Learning objective means what you would like to give them. You must write it down. I find in number of cases instructors, if you ask them what is your learning objective or learning objectives of today's presentation, they sometimes fumble, they are not able to respond to it. It means objectives must be spelled out in advance, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that, so that you are very clear that these are the things you are going to cover in this session, and these are your going to be learning outcomes. So, learning outcomes are based on objectives. If you have made that these are the objectives which I have kept in mind while making my presentation, then you will be able to say these are going to be learning outcomes. So, learning outcomes are directly based on the objectives. So, therefore, we must work out our own objectives of taking sessions or giving them instructions. And third thing which is important, knowing the learning conditions. We must be careful and observe what are the learning conditions which are available there, or through which learner will learn at a fast speed. Do they learn fast by a video presentation? Do they learn fast by giving exercises? Do they learn fast by asking question answers? Whatever that you have to find out. I have found out in most of the cases question answer is the best. You ask the question and then you yourself answer the question. If you stop that style of question answer, then the learning takes place at a faster speed. Then the student attention is that first when you raise the question, he starts thinking the answer of the question, and when you answer the question, then he tallies his answer with your answer, or he tries to remember that question answer. So, question answer style is supposed to be quite effective, but that means lot of work to be done by the instructor. He will have to prepare questions in advance, and then he will have to see that they are put in a logical manner, in logical order, and then the answers are also given according to that. So, therefore, we must create those learning conditions by which they learn fast, or if you would like to give them case study, would you like to give them a video case study, and by seeing a video then they will start answering your questions, or you can put a video analysis. Nowadays, because the students are more inclined towards the television and video things, then they find it that this is very good practice. It means the instructor will have to develop a video on the same topic before taking to the class. I think most of the distance education universities are already doing it. We can borrow those videos if we are not able to produce it, and we can use it in our sessions. Then comes the feedback. Feedback, as you already know, you are all experts in that, collecting the feedback, that is whether they have understood what you have communicated to them, whether they have understood in a right perspective, whether they will be able to use that skill, whether they will be able to repeat that information, all that. So, feedback has to be collected, and the final assessment will, as an instructor, you feel happy that after I have made 5, 10 or 15 presentations, then what is that? The learner has been able to change himself. So, as I indicated to you earlier, that there are basically 3 things which we must remember, and that is what changes I would like to bring in the knowledge area, what he will know after my presentation, or how he will think, and then how he will be able to perform, and then how the students feel after attending your session. That is, he feels confident, he can do the job, and then he has developed a positive attitude for taking up the tasks, and also he can apply them because he understands, he has basic knowledge related to the subject itself concerned. So, effective instructional material has to be developed keeping these 3 areas, 3 domains in view, and then which 5 points which I have said has to be kept in mind. If we are able to do that, then we will be able to communicate them more effectively. Here I have put in this just in a way so that what has changes has been taken place earlier and where it should goes there. They are the steps which can be seen, and I have already discussed some of these already, saying there is not much difference. Now see here, this is the very important slide or PPT which is revised on the Bloom's taxonomy which is given. Knowledge, as I was telling you earlier, knowledge is the cognitive domain. So whatever knowledge you are giving, whatever information you are giving, he should be able to remember. So how will you give? That is your task. For example, here in this presentation, I said ADDIE model. ADDIE was not something else, it is not name of a person. ADDIE, I said A for this, I for this, this D stands for this. So I have said ADDIE, so easy to remember. So how you present the knowledge in such a manner so that remember it. If you don't develop that type of thing, strategy, then it's difficult to remember. So therefore put them in such a manner so that they remember it, ADDIE model. Then they should be able to understand it, describe it, explain it. There are three important things: understanding, describing, explaining. When you have given the knowledge, whether he has understood it properly in the present context, after understanding, can he describe it, and can he explain to you? I think this is another very important step in instruction designing, that when you are presenting the knowledge, when you are presenting the information, body of information, whether he can describe it, use it, explain it, so that we can evaluate, yes, he has thoroughly understood it. That is what the first important cognitive area. How should we do that? Either we should ask them to explain, it could be a verbal type of communication, or we give them a piece of paper and say, all right, today I have explained you all this, or this subject has been explained to you, I give you only 2 questions, write it down on a piece of paper, and then you say explain it. Now when you cut back this piece of paper, when you go for next session, you can say, well, this is the what you have been able to understand and you have explained in this manner, and you can also get the feedback so that whether this has been understood in a proper perspective or not. Then the next thing is in this you will find is the application part of it. Most of us are shy. We don't, as an instructor, we don't give them how will you apply this knowledge, where you will apply this knowledge, what is going to be the process of applying it, how it will be useful to you. Now that application has to be told to them very clearly so that they understand, and after application comes the analyze. They should be able to analyze themselves. After application, if he is able to analyze, he will be able to integrate it with his existing knowledge. He will be able to develop certain things, new concepts, and after analysis, when you have seen he is able to analyze it, then you will have to see how to evaluate it, whether he has properly understood, he is able to describe, he is able to explain, he is able to apply, he is able to analyze, and then your evaluation process will be complete. And I think the topmost thing would be the creation. Some student may develop a new body of knowledge by integrating it. Some may develop a new skill. That's why it is shown on the top of this diagram, because creating the new body of information, creating the new skill on the basis of that, it is a difficult thing to be done. But teacher must be, our instructor must feel satisfied that after his presentations they are able to develop certain things, they are able to create certain things which will be helpful to them in their future work. Now I come to the learning outcomes. Nowadays learning outcomes are being discussed openly. Now the learning outcomes, as I explained to you, it means through a process of learning what has come out in the behavior of the learner, that is a learning outcome. And these learning outcomes have to be identified by the instructor in advance, that I expect after this has been done, these are the things which have to be achieved, and this will be the thing which will happen with my learner and learning outcomes. These must be explained in advance. You must keep in mind in advance that this is what I am expecting. So through my whole instruction process, these are the 2 or 3 learning outcomes which will be there. Or if it is a course, then there could be 6, 7 learning outcomes. Here I would like to give you the classification of Mr. Gagne, Robert Gagne, which is very famous in that. I gave you the earlier classification and examples of the Bloom's. Now he did also a good work in that area, and he says when we talk of cognitive domain, we are talking of certain things, and he says verbal information which should be presented, stated, or he is able to recite, he is able to tell or declare. So according to him, the information given to the learner, and if learner is able to state it as you have presented it, if he is able to recite the same thing or he is able to tell, then this will be a learning outcome in terms of cognitive domain. Then comes the intellectual skills. Now intellectual skills basically is related with the concepts. There is no point just passing on the information to the student and he is not able to understand the concept. Concept is very important. Concept means a meaning, he is able to understand, and therefore how it has developed, what is to be done, all that will come under the concepts. And then intellectual skills. So first was the verbal information, second was the intellectual skills, and intellectual skills, one was he is able to understand the concept, second is he is able to apply rules and principles, and third is he is able to solve the problems or find the solutions. Yes, there are a lot of things to be done here. The instructor will have to take a lot of efforts, and he has to see that whether whatever I am presenting is going through this or not. That's why teacher spends, or instructor spends 10 to 15 hours to prepare for one lecture. Generally this question is asked by the administrators. Oh, you just take 1.5 hour session or 1 hour session. So in the whole day you spend only 1 hour. You do the work of 1 hour only. They forget to prepare a presentation of 1 hour. The teacher will have to spend 12 to 15 hours for developing the instructional materials, for designing the whole instructional system, the interventions, type of examples he has to give, demonstrations, all that has to be worked out. For that he will have to spend lot of time. So he may give only 1 hour presentation, but for this 1 hour presentation he must have to put in at least 10 to 15 hours of work, and we forget about that work, and some of us as instructors forget about that time. We don't devote that time to develop our own instructional system, and therefore we fail as instructor in the classroom. We have not taken care of all these things without doing any homework in terms of the instructional designing, in terms of learning outcomes, in terms of learning objectives, in terms of the interventions. We have not done any work. We just enter into the class and start talking blah blah blah, and then it does not cut ice with the students. So therefore that care has to be taken. Then as I said you, the other thing is which has to be taken care of under the cognitive domain, he should be able to discriminate, distinguish, differentiate, not only the understanding the concept. Yes, he has to understand the concept. He must know the body of information, all that. But in addition to explain, in addition to tell, he should also be able to distinguish it, differentiate with other information. He should be able to identify, specify. These are the different words which I am giving it to you. Classify, categorize. He should be able to solve certain problems. Higher order rule was, as I said, you create, generate, develop. All these words I have given it to you. Please take care of these words, and when you are designing your instructional system, you keep in mind that what a student is able to explain, state or tell, whether it meets your requirement, and then he is able to discriminate, distinguish with different types of body of information available, then he is able to classify them, categorize them, and also he is able to show how he will do it. And if he is able to create another body, great, that will be great thing which he will be doing. Next is this was the cognitive domain. Cognitive, as I was telling you, it was related with the knowledge. So in knowledge, what I have explained to you, once again to repeat, understanding. Understanding will come if he is able to explain, tell, describe, that is understanding. After understanding, whether he is able to answer certain questions which is related with that knowledge. Is he able to integrate with his existing knowledge? All these things we have to keep in mind. Now we come to his attitude, affective domain, what we is called. Affective domain is the attitude. What is attitude? Choose, prefer, elect. The learner himself shows the positive attitude or negative attitude towards the body of information you have given. or he is able to select. He says, well, in your presentation I find these were the 4 things which are very important, which are very useful, and I am going to use them. So that is affective domain. Now we should take care of affective domain, because when a student, when a learner comes to your sessions, he may have negative or he may have positive, whatever. But as an instructor you will have to take care of both aspects of the attitude. If he comes with the negative, you will have to develop him positive, give him some interventions so that he becomes positive, and then he starts appreciating, yes, this is going to be useful in my career, in my job situation. That's why I said, if you are going to make a presentation in question answer style, you will be able to give them information more effectively in an intelligent way. And third is the skill, psychomotor, which is how he will be going to execute, how he is going to perform, or how he is going to carry out. 3 things important in the motor skills. So these 3 things have to be checked whether he is able to do it. So 3 things please remember: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Now we come to the learning events, which are the conditions of the learning. What is learning event? Learning event means you create an event so that the learning takes place at a faster speed. And how it will take a faster speed? First you have to draw his attention. That is, you have to gain his attention. That is very important. If you have attracted him, if you have gained his attention, he will be able to, or he will at least listen to you, or he will start thinking on the basis of your presentation. So drawing attention is very important, because learners, when they come to the session, they are coming after certain task, and they may have been involved, mind is involved in certain other things. So therefore we say gain attention of this thing. Then next thing is, always inform the learner about your objectives, that in this session I am going to cover 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these objectives will help you in these activities, either knowledge, either skill or attitude, what is going to be there. If you start your presentation then with the learning objectives, then the student becomes very clear in his mind that this is what I am going to get out of this session. So therefore we say the instructor must design his own learning objectives. Then next is, he must help them in recalling what has already been covered, what is going to be covered in this session. Once you stimulate recalling, then he is able to associate whatever you are going to make a presentation with the earlier subject matter which has been given to him. So therefore we say stimulate recall. Then you come to presentation of the stimulus. What you are going to give? I am calling it a stimulus in terms of learning outcomes, in terms of skills, in terms of the knowledge. You are giving some stimulus so that he is able to retain it, he is able to remember it, he is able to use it, he is able to create a new body of information. And for that I provide him learning guidance. I am constantly guiding him, helping him, assisting him, facilitating him. If I am doing all this, then the learner on his own will be able to do certain tasks, remember certain information, and we will be able to get the learning outcomes in mind. The other thing which I wanted to emphasize in this, we must emphasize how he is performing. That is eliciting the performance, and then we must get the feedback, assess the performance, and enhance the retention and transfer. Enhancing retention and transfer means that you must give him certain reading assignments. You may tell him where there is information available, what are the books related to it, what are the journals which are available. If you are interested in additional information, you can go to these material which are available. Even certain videos are available. He can go to those videos, audios, and then he can use them, and that will make a learning process more effective. Well, friends, I think I have devoted time today basically emphasizing how an instructional should design his program. So the three components of the behavior, learning, that is cognitive, affective, and psychomotor, taken care of it. How instructors should work out the learning outcomes, how learning outcomes are important, that must be developed, and nowadays we are talking of learning outcomes from our program. We must be able to take care of that. Thank you very much.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. And dear friends, if you want to give your feedback for this particular lecture, then you can mail us at info.cc@nic.in. Your questions are also welcome, and we will try to solve the questions when next time Professor Devesh Kishore visits our studio. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.